what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Tonight in movie reviews, we're going to take a look at a new film that focuses on a single father who swipes right on the wrong demon. We're talking Succubus. But let's not waste any time. Let's jump right on into things. If you haven't seen the trailer for Succubus before, this tells the story of Chris, a newly single father struggling with his own insecurities, being able to stay awake, and a failing marriage. Freshly separated, he's encouraged by his friend to try his hand at some dating apps to get back out there. But after swiping right on the wrong woman, he discovers he's matched with a demon who wants much more than a one-night stand. And there it is, y'all. That is Succubus. Now, my friend Stasha gets to take all the credit here on this one, as she suggested it after we finished an online game night recently. She was telling me she had seen bits and pieces of it, and that it seemed the kind of vibe of regular horror movies that we're always watching, so I should check this one out. We did, and for better or worse, we got through it here, and so I gotta share all the details with all of you, so you can thank my friend Stasha for this suggestion. Now, back to the story though. Chris is shown to be fairly meek and timid about a lot that's going on in his life. He and his wife Sharon recently had a newborn son, but they're also recently separated. As Sharon enjoys a night on the town with a friend, one of Chris's friends convinces him that the best way to deal with the situation at home and regain some of his confidence is to jump back on an app and find the right match. Now, Chris swipes right on Adra, who he initially believes to be a bot, but discovers he's actually hit the jackpot. Adra seems legitimately interested in everything Chris has to say. She's attractive and is clearly into what Chris is offering. As their conversation continues, Chris begins to notice things start to feel off with Adra and at home. Objects begin to move around his home. Lights begin to flicker, he begins to see things, and Adra simply just won't show her face at all without a filter, without sunglasses, or just in general. When Chris is contacted by a man warning him of the danger he's in by connecting with Adra, he chooses to ignore it, only to find himself eventually possessed by a succubus. You know, I feel this movie really could have benefited from keeping the first person perspective. You know, as you're seeing some of the footage that I'm showing you, a good chunk of this is told from that point of view. A lot of it's coming from Chris's laptop, his tablets, his cell phone, the apps he's talking on. And I felt that that was an effective way to truly tell this story. And I definitely understand that some of the more fantastic elements of the film, namely in the third act when we get to see Adra's bedroom finally, or her bedroom, I do understand that you can't really tell a lot of that through a first person perspective, but it was a bit jarring though to go out of it after we spend so much time in there. I thought it was a really good way to tell this story, a really good framing device, and it also helped invoke one of the influences I feel of this story, which is the VHS segment Amateur Night. If you hadn't seen that one, in the original VHS film, the segment Amateur Night focused on a group of friends who decide to go out one night with spy glasses on to go pick up women and see if they can get lucky. And they do find what they think is the right woman, who also turns out to be a demon who rips them all to shreds. Now, between the first person point of view of that film, the fact that it's about these guys trying to find this woman who turns out to be a demon who kills them all, you can obviously understand the similarities here between these two tales. But what largely worked about that story was that the group of guys that we followed around didn't really have any redeemable qualities. These were not good guys that we were following along at all, and it very much seemed that what they ultimately get at the end of the story is very deserving of that. That works well, because then we have no qualms, no issues at all about the situation getting worse and worse and worse. The problem here with Succubus, though, is that Chris isn't presented as somebody who has like legitimate flaws that we shouldn't like at all. Like, he very much cares for his separated wife, he's a great father, and he calls out his best friend for being misogynistic and being a bit of a prick as well, too. We're seeing nothing but really good traits of Chris, and his biggest fallacy in this is the fact that he swipes right on Adra, that he puts himself out there. Keep in mind again though, he is freshly separated. His wife is out there having a night on the town herself, and given the ending of the story and what ultimately happens to his wife, there's a lot of implications here that again Chris is not the one in the wrong to do a swipe right and have a conversation with a random woman. So again, one of the big problems that comes out of this is that Chris is presented to be really, really likable. And even if some of that is because of his meek, timid nature and the fact that he's just not doing things that an asshole would do, that's more than enough to take issues with what Chris ends up getting in this film. Because he really does go through the ringer in this, and a lot of it just doesn't feel justified. Ron Perlman also makes an appearance as a doctor with a history connected to Adra, who contacts Chris to let him know of the danger that he's in. Now, Perlman is always great in any project that you see him in, whether the project itself is actually any good. And that's the same case here with Succubus. But the flip of it, though, is that I don't think the material actually serves him or the character all that well. He reaches out multiple times to try to get a hold of Chris to help him deal with Adra and to keep him safe. But pretty much every single time he contacts him, he decides to really be withholding with the information. He's purposely obscure, and it seems like the only thing it ends up doing is ultimately damning Chris and making his situation worse and worse. And because there's no actual motive for his character, Dr. Zephyr, to do that, again, it just seems like this guy is being dumb and being evasive for no reason at all. And that sucks. When you get somebody like Ron Perlman in the film, you want that character to seem like they know what they're doing, and that just doesn't seem to be the case here with Dr. Zephyr. There's also a question of how much Chris would honestly allow himself to be tricked the way that he is in this day and age. Like, Chris might not be somebody who's been on a date in a while and doesn't really understand what you're doing on apps or anything like that. But at the same time, if we're talking, we're in the modern day and age, and you match with somebody who doesn't want to show their face, whether it's a case of a filter, sunglasses, they just won't tilt it up, they're not talking loud, they're not using full complete sentences, they're pushing you to do things that will put your son in danger. All these things combined, put together there, should scream, you should probably unmatch this person and just keep on swiping at that point. So the fact that they show that Chris really is dumb enough to keep all this up over the course of this film just kind of seems insulting. Chris is not a bad looking guy. Like, they try to tell us what, like, again, his meek and timid nature, and that makes him seem like he's a bit of a geek. He's a bit of an introvert who could never get a girl. But again, that doesn't really seem to be the case. It clashes very, very much with the way everything's presented. So it's just another glaring problem that comes out of the film here. Now, outside of a number of jump scares earlier on, most of the terror here is saved for the third act reveal, where we get to see Adra's bedroom and her true demonic nature. Now, a lot of that I really enjoyed because it very much evoked feelings of like death by temptation. Like, the bedroom very much seems like a way to like an homage of the bedroom scenes we saw in that trauma film. And especially given Adra's true nature, you can obviously get the similarities out of that as well too. And I think a large part of that works. It's very clear this is where the budget went to in order to make Adra's demonic design, which is really fascinating, and it still manages to contain some of the sexiness that she has as well too, which is very, very important if this is going to be a creature that is, again, seducing men to their deaths. So great design here, and even though I would have liked a little bit more of those scares peppered out throughout the earlier part of the film, it really does make the third act work. I didn't hate Succubus by any means. The first person's perspective it had for the grand majority of the film really does work. And of course, we're getting Ron Perlman. But again, the inconsistencies we have with Chris, our lead character, the punishment that he's put through for ultimately no reason at all. Just, there's a lot of issues here with this that just can't go unnoticed. So Succubus ends up getting a 2.5 out of 5. You can actually go check this one out for yourself right now for free over on Plex. So go and watch it and let me know if I'm off base here, my thoughts on it. You can let me know in the comment section. But don't forget to get subscribed to my channel, because we got a lot more great horror content coming your way, including on June 4th, we are headed back to the crypt in another double feature. That's right, folks. We are focusing on the summertime heat with the episodes Carrion Death and Oil's Well That Ends Well. And tomorrow, June 2nd, I begin my coverage of Year 4 of the After Dark Horror Fest with the first film, an adaptation of one of Clive Barker's stories in his Books of Blood, Dread. You don't want to miss that at all, so get subscribed to my link tree at linktr.ee/T Scary Movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings through the year, my TikTok page for movie news, movie premieres, and movie reviews, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all, there. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the horror content I have coming out your way. We are just about to our season's end where we're going to talk about the best films of 2025 so far. You do not want to miss that. And of course, we're talking other summertime scorchers, including The Ritual and Dangerous Animals here soon as well. Don't miss out on that, folks. That's going to do it for me here tonight, though. My name is T. We'll be talking scary movies. Stay scared.